Yes, hello and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. And we've got a great show coming your way. We're going to preview the WA Day round, a huge long weekend of footy. And in just a moment, we'll have Claremont star Jye Bolton joining us on the show. Paul Persick with you in the BackChat studios. It's a great pleasure to have your company. And I welcome back the great Taylor Cowper, TC. Welcome back, mate. A huge show coming up.
Massive show. Looking forward to having a chat with Jye. Obviously a superstar in the WAFL competition, but I know it's been talked about on the WAFL this weekend. This is a massive round of footy, probably one of the biggest we've had for a while, I reckon.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The WA Day round 8, one game on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, and of course the 2 derbies. Let's go right off the bat. The superstar of the WAFL from the Claremont Football Club. He's been good enough to join us, Jye Bolton. Hello, Jye. Welcome along.
Hey lads, thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the show, Jye. Huge game coming up against Perth on Saturday, but first we'll talk about one of your teammates, Jack Buller, who got picked up in last night's mid-season draft by the Sydney Swans.
Yeah, it's great to see him get reward for how much effort he's put in and transform sort of the way that he goes about his footy. And we're just stoked for him. So it was pretty funny. We found out that they pre-record the draft. And we were all sitting around because the coach was trying to get us out in the track last night and hoping that he went at pick number 6. And unfortunately, we didn't get told that it was going to be the second pick they were using. So it was a bit of a stitch up. We thought that maybe he was getting pranked and he wasn't getting taken, but luckily he got the chockies at pick 15.
Yeah, it's fantastic for him. I know. To be picked anywhere in the AFL, it's pretty good, but some were expecting him to go a bit higher. But just what do you reckon he'll be like in the AFL system?
I think he's got a lot of upside, a lot of scope going into a full-time environment where you're not having to worry about your job outside of footy. And I think he was working for Rottnest Express, so not having to come to training after being exhausted pulling bikes on and off the ferry all day. And yeah, exactly right. So I think that there'll be a lot of upside. Plus, he's got a lot of learning to do as well. So I think, going into that environment, working with coaches closely, working off, being able to pick Buddy's brain will just do him wonders.
Well, we wish him all the best, Jack Buller, going to the Sydney Swans. Now let's shift focus back to the Claremont side, Jye. Of course, a big game coming up on Saturday at Lathlane against Perth, needing to bounce back after the loss to East Fremantle. Your side, despite with Jack Buller going to the Sydney Swans, still a very strong side, third, I should say, on the ladder. Should be a win this one, but Perth have been very competitive.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll say it should be a win. We're very happy with how he went about it, even though East Freo played really well. We were disappointed. So we're looking to bounce back this week and definitely going in with plenty of respect for what Perth's doing and how they've got some momentum at the moment and after knocking off South Freo last week. So we'll put a fair bit of work into them and try and make sure that we understand how they've been successful over the last few weeks and try and arrest some of that momentum and get a win.
Just intrigued, Jye, in terms of the life of a WAFL football player, because you did mention that Perth played a great game of footy last week, and I was actually there watching that South Fremantle game, and they were very good, and to get up, especially at South Fremantle, at Fremantle Oval, was a great effort to them. Just in terms of a part-time football player, a contracted player, do you guys watch much vision of their game that they played last weekend heading into this game?
Well, luckily we've got a very dedicated coach, Ash Prescott. He puts in a lot of work and gets us a lot of vision and insight into our opposition each week. He spends hours cutting up vision on Huddle and sending it out to all of us to watch through the week. We probably get close to 20 emails, I reckon, a week of different vision from different clubs or whoever our opponent is going to be that week, and some player insights as well. So we're lucky that I suppose the league is 10 teams, not 20 like the VFL is, and you can kind of have a good memory of players that you come up against. And sort of put that in the bank and know what a club is sort of all about. But it's great to accentuate it with the work that Ash puts in.
On that as well, like if you have a game on a Saturday afternoon, would you head to one of the derbies on Monday just to get a bit of an insight on how those teams are travelling as well, or you just watch it during the week at some point?
Yeah, depends, I suppose. I think it'd be more likely if we were playing them the following week,
Yep.
or if we hadn't played them recently. So, yeah, I don't know. There's some guys who would, there's some guys who wouldn't. We kind of leave it up to the individual, and how we put the trust in them in terms of how they want to prepare.
Yep.
Some like to get away from footy and have a bit of a break and take that day as a break. So. We just leave it up to the individual.
Fantastic stuff, Jye. Well, we wish you all the best and your team on Saturday against Perth up at Lathlane. A huge game. Thanks very much for your time, Jye. We really appreciate it.
Cheers, guys, and congrats on the show. Sounds like it's going really well.
Thanks, Jye. Really appreciate it. Jye Bolton, superstar of the WAFL at the Claremont Football Club. That is going to be a big game for the Tigers because even though they've been able to get some wins on the board, really, their four-quarter game is what worries me at the moment, because especially against the likes of East Perth and Swan Districts, they got back into it only in the second half. So will that be a problem again?
Well, and I know that you and Skeet spoke about it on Tuesday, but I was at the Perth South Fremantle game and watched that final quarter there, and I thought South Fremantle had it in the last 5 minutes of the game, and Perth just found a way to get back in it, whereas 2 or 3 years ago, in the last 2 or 3 year period, they would have lost that. They just would have not have known how to compose themselves in the late moments of the game. They managed to kick a goal and get in front. But, so this could be an interesting game for Claremont.
Certainly will be. You're listening to Around the Waffle, the official podcast of the WAFL. And let's go to the round previews. Another factor into the first game on Saturday at Mineral Resources Park, Perth and Claremont. I'll be on the call for this one on the AFL app. This one is going to be very interesting considering that both teams will now have one of their most viable forwards in the competition out. Of course, both via the mid-season draft.
Yeah.
Jack Buller of Claremont and Jaden Hunter of Perth, who kicked that 5-goal match-winning performance. Just who's going to lift? Who's going to step up to the plate up forward for both these teams on Saturday?
Yeah, that will be one of the main talking points of this game. How do you think that's going to play out?
Well, for Perth, they're going to find it tough, I reckon, because they've been shifting a lot of players around in that forward line. I mean, we spoke about the likes of Jaden Hunter. He kicked 5 goals, but he, in my own opinion, has been one of their only viable forwards as far as avenues to goal.
Sure.
That's been wiped out now because of the mid-season draft. Having said that, there are a couple of good players that can deliver to that forward line and maybe shift further up the ground and kick those vital goals. Charlie Thompson, he's been terrific. Jack Avery as well. And also a couple of other players that I reckon can live up to that billing. Michael Sinclair, he had a quiet one against South Fremantle. But also Oscar Bird, I reckon he's going to be the one to step up for Perth.
Sure, and from the Claremont side of things, there's a lot of really great midfielders who can sneak forward and kick a goal, and they deliver the ball so well into their forward 50, Claremont do. So those players can just push into the forward a little bit more and hopefully get a couple of goals. I'm not that concerned for Claremont. I think it will be a really tight game. It is at Lathlane Oval. It is always tough there for any away side, and I know Perth have been struggling a little bit of late in the last couple of seasons, or the last decade, really, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But, you got to be careful, especially when you lose players like that. I think this game is going to be a cracker on Saturday afternoon.
Should be a beauty. Can't wait.
And you're calling it, did you say?
Yeah, calling it on the AFL app.
Yeah,
Should be
you
a
did
ripper.
a great job for the East Fremantle game, by the way, the East Fremantle and Claremont game. So you got good form heading into this one as well, Paul. But I reckon Claremont are just going to be too good in this one. I just think, they sit third on the ladder at the moment. Perth, they are starting to get really good form of footy there. I watched them play, like I mentioned, on Saturday afternoon. They just had mature heads there that just knew how to get the game won at the end.
But can they do it again against a side that will be absolutely spewing after that loss to East Fremantle? And especially now that Bailey Rogers, we mentioned him as an X factor of the team. He's still missing. That's the problem. So that's going to still leave a big hole in their midfield. And that was exposed in that last quarter when they got the delivery, but they just couldn't convert inside their 50. I'm going to say, Clement, I did say to Jye Bolton, should be a win against Perth, but like I said, not with conviction. I mean, Claremont's form, even though they got the wins on the board, still a bit up and down.
If Perth are in the game in the last quarter, I think there is a chance they can win, but I think Claremont will be too good in this one.
Will be a cracker on Saturday. Now we go to the Sunday games. First of all, at 1:40 at Steel Blue Oval, Swan Districts and the West Coast Eagles. You pencil Swan Districts in for a win, but, when the game is close, the Swans still find those ways to wobble themselves out of the game. I mean, they've lost 5 times now.
You're trying
by
to
less
find a
than 10
way
points.
to talk West Coast into this game a little bit, aren't you?
No, not at all. I'm just stating the facts. Swans just can't catch a break this season.
No, they can't. They've struggled, and we've spoken about it plenty on this show where they've lost the few games on the trot at home as well. In saying that, though, against pretty good competition as well, and I know South Fremantle, we'll talk about them a little bit later, but they're sitting 8th. They started 2 games back, and, they should have won against Perth last weekend as well. I think Swan Districts, they've only won the 1 game this season. Go back to Steel Blue Oval, and I think they're going to get the job done pretty convincingly.
They have to win. If they don't crush the West Coast Eagles, to be frank, then there's going to be more problems for the Swans.
Let me say this. If they lose to West Coast, we do a show dedicated to Swan Districts next week where we just dissect their whole team. And that's how confident I am that it's not going to happen, but I reckon that's what we probably do.
You are confident, man. I like the confidence, man, especially when, you've got so many great players, so many tremendous contributors for the Swans, and all they've mustered this season is 1 win with the side that they've got under the new coach, Andrew Prune. It blows me away, but they should win this one against West Coast easily.
On a side note to this one, Look at the rest of the teams in the competition. Can West Coast at any stage this year beat any of those teams?
It's an unknown. It's a real unknown.
Is it an unknown?
But then again, look at last season. Even though they got 1 win, it was one that no one saw coming. And it was largely due to South Fremantle having their players ill or injured, pulling out. And you had Nick Naitanui come back and a couple of other AFL stars. So you never know.
I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say West Coast are not going to win a game all season.
I don't blame you for saying that. Given the injuries and all the chaos that is going on and off the field at the Eagles. So Swans, I reckon, we'll both agree will be an easy win for them over there. Now, this one hopefully will be a little bit more closer. The second game on Sunday at 2:10 at Lane Group Stadium. It is Peel Thunder, the top team in the competition, against Subiaco, just inside the 5. What a game this one's going to be. 6-1 Peel having their best start to the season since they entered the league back in 1997 and their best since their premiership years. They'll go into this game as red-hot favourites, TC, but Subiaco, they also will be absolutely fired up.
Do you know the thing that says something to me in this game is these games between these two sides are never close.
Yeah.
The last 5 times they've met, it was Peel Thunder defeated Subiaco by 49. Then before that, it was Subiaco by 74. The one before that was a little bit closer, but all the other ones, they're usually one-sided margins in these two sides games. So expect this one to be a cracker, and I reckon it's going to be one of the first times we actually see these two teams really go at it.
And the game's going to be won in the midfield. Both have
totally
stacked midfielders. I mean, when you look at the likes of Hancock and Brody Wem, I should say, he can play a little bit of midfield and up forward. Wagner and Warner, and for Subiaco, led by Zach Clark, who's having a spectacular season, and also the likes of Max Walters. He gets plenty of the ball a lot, maybe as more of a half forward. Liam Hickmott, Jackson McGowan, and Will Hickmott. Those are the keys for Subiaco that can win them the game.
Oh, totally. It's going to be a great game up or down there at Lane
Group Stadium, down south.
I do like going down there and watching footy. I reckon it's one of the best places to watch footy in Perth. But no, I think in this one, Subiaco, they have had a pretty decent start to the season. And if you're a Subiaco supporter, looking where they are at now from where you thought they might have been at the start of the season, they're way ahead of where I personally thought they'd be. But I think Peel Thunder, especially at home, are going to be too good in this one.
I'm going the other way. I'm saying Subiaco.
Seriously?
I'm going to go on a limb here. I reckon Subiaco can break the Thunder run here and cause a bit of a shock. And if they win here, they'll keep in touch with the top 3 at least. And I reckon they can do it. If Zach Clark gets more support around the ball than what he got last week, and when you've got Ben Sokol, I mean, he had a bit of a lean day up forward, 2 goals, 3. If he can get his kicking boots on and take the Thunder backline right out of the game, that's what's going to lead for a Subiaco victory.
That's what's going to lead to it, but if they can do that, that's the other question.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, the big ones on WA Day Round 8, the 2 derbies. Can't wait for this one. The first one, Monday, 1:40 at the WACA ground, East Fremantle and South Fremantle. This one, dare I say, is the most anticipated WA Day derby in recent years.
I get nervous, Paul. I'm actually going down to Bunbury this weekend, and I'm coming back early to watch this game. It will be a fascinating one. I know. I get nervous when it's a team that I support who are playing a team that have lost a very close game the week before. Because that's all they're going to be talking about, especially coming into a game that means so much for them. So, at the WACA, a little bit unknown. They've only played the one game between the two of them there. So, this will be interesting as well. 14 in a row. 14. So this could be the 15th in a row the Sharks lose. But I think they've just had a great season. You obviously watched them play last weekend. They were fantastic against Claremont. But it's just a danger game.
It is.
Really is. You just never know what's going to come from one of these derbies.
It's a danger game for East Fremantle in a way. They want to keep in touch with that double chance bracket. But more importantly, it's a danger one for South.
Totally.
Especially, I spoke to Skeet on Tuesday on South Freo's loss to Perth. If they lose, their season's cooked.
Totally.
Their season's cooked like cold turkey.
And then you look like what you call yourself a ham.
A ham.
Because you wanted them, that you thought they were going to play the finals. So
yeah, and finish in the top two, no less, and they're nowhere near. But they live to play these games, South Fremantle. When you think about it, they always rise for those games like that, especially at WA Day Derby.
Did you say East Fremantle rise for them?
No, South.
Oh, I was going to say, they haven't risen in the last 14 games.
Yeah, but South Fremantle, when the WA Day Derby comes about, they just always have that little extra edge. But having said that, mark this down.
Yep.
June 3rd, 2023. Oh, no, June 5th, rather. June 5th.
Your days mixed up, mate.
Yeah, I know. Because
You're that excited.
Yes. June 5th, 2023,
Yeah.
at the WACA ground. Mark this down. As a great song would say, it'll be the day the Bulldog streak died.
Okay.
East Fremantle. For me.
I don't think it was called the Bulldog streak died.
I'm paraphrasing. It was paraphrasing a song the day the music died. Please.
I know, I got that. I'm tipping East Fremantle in this game as well. How much do you think they'll win by?
I reckon it'll be less than a goal. It'll be right down to the wire. It's going to be a beauty.
What is the I'm just having a look, and whilst we start the next game, I might actually look up the weather, what it's going to be on Monday.
It's going to be absolutely bucketing down.
Yeah, okay.
with
So it'll be
rain.
a tight game, contested footy, in and out, muddy.
Yeah, very muddy.
It's gonna be, probably not at the Wacker, but...
Well, the cricket pitch area was pretty muddy.
Yeah,
When you look
yeah,
at
yeah,
their game
that's
against
true.
Subiaco.
I'm going East Fremantle in this one. I think they're going to...
You are so nervous.
Three goals.
You are so nervous, TC. I've never seen you that nervous in my lifetime.
Just 14... Do you know, the time that I've been around East Fremantle, we've never won a derby.
Well, hopefully it'll be the first in your lifetime, my man.
I hope so.
Now, the other derby, of course, the Perth derby. This one, I reckon, has a few more stakes in this one when you look at it, because both teams are in the picture of the five. East Perth and West Perth, Monday at 2:10, Leederville Oval. West Perth in 5th, East Perth in 6th. 5th place is on the line here, and with similar conditions forecast, you'd expect contested footy, especially with both teams stacked in midfield.
And where is this game?
Leederville Oval.
Yeah, so it will be a mud bath, won't it?
Yes.
Especially if it's raining. So, East Perth home game. They've had a great, obviously, come off a win as well. They had those 3 losses in a row, which, if you're an East Perth fan, that really, really hurts heading into the later stages of the years. But that 3-week spread's the only games that they've lost for the year. So they do have a little bit of form outside of those 3 games. West Perth, they're a great side. Great, mature footy players.
But they should not have blown that four goal lead against Peel Thunder.
100%.
They had it right there.
Yeah, so it will be a fascinating game. I love these derby weekends. I think it's great. Leederville Oval is a great place, as we know, as everyone who's watching who was at the grand final last year knows that it is one of the best places to watch footy in this state. If it's humming along, how many people do you think will go collectively to both games, and then how many people will be at the Freo one and how many people at Perth?
It's tough to estimate because of the weather as well, but we do want as many people there at the Wacker and at Leederville Oval.
I reckon you'll get 2.5 at the Wacker, and I reckon probably 3.5 at Perth, I reckon.
Yeah, given the weather, and also, especially with the Wacker being virtually cut in half when you look at it.
Well, but also it's a tough venue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like in terms of... They still have struggled to get people there at East Fremantle. So it's just an unknown in terms of a derby. I reckon if it was at Fremantle Oval, you might be pushing 3.5, 4. But I just think the whack, it's unknown in terms of crowd and all that kind of stuff. I reckon they'll be happy if they get 2.5.
Yeah. And it hasn't been used for football before last year since 1994, so it's still taking some time to get used to. But I tell you what, for all the fans out there, get yourselves to a game, especially
100%.
Those 2 derbies.
Oh, wait,
who are we tipping? Absolute beauty. For the tip for the final game, East Perth, West Perth. I'm going West Perth. I'm going West Perth, but only just. East Perth will really make a game of it, especially when you've got Schumacher, Crowden, and Angus Scott, the usual midfield suspects, and Tom North.
We've tipped the same every game?
Apart from Peel Thunder and Subiaco. You went with Peel, I went with Subiaco.
In this one, I'm going to go, and I'll be honest, Paul Hazelby, he took the mickey out of me the other day because he got 4 out of 5.
He did, and he hasn't still kept quiet about it.
So I will say that West Perth will win this one.
West Perth? Yeah. By how much?
By a kick. Yeah, it'll be a close game.
Oh, just like that Fremantle
Yeah.
Derby. Those two games, WA Day Monday, is going to be a beauty. Mate, the excitement is just growing and growing for this WA Day round out. It's a ripper.
And they've put out on the socials and all that kind of stuff, the Footy Commission and the WAFL, that this is, and I know every week, Paul, we've spoken about that it is the round so far. This genuinely is.
Oh, yeah.
It really is. Outside of probably that Claremont-Perth game, every other game can be won or lost in a kick. Oh, and also you can chuck in the West Coast Eagles Swan Districts game in there as well.
Maybe. Well, I reckon Perth and Claremont will be close.
Oh, it will be. But I think Claremont is too good. But besides that, the three other games are crackers. So it's a great weekend of footy. Get along, watch it if you can't. Which is the 7 game this weekend?
Well, there's 2 of them on 7. So on Sunday, it's Peel and Subiaco on 7. And then on Mondays, the Freo Derby at the Wacker.
There you go. So great footy to watch. If you can't watch it through there, stream it through the AFL app or AFL.com. Fantastic weekend of footy. Make sure you get around it.
Can't wait.
Especially when there's not much AFL on either.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've got 5 teams or 6 teams in the AFL that they've got to buy. So plenty of WAFL action to watch.
Fans, make sure you get yourself down to a game. If you're not able to do so, you can watch it on 7 or on the AFL app. TC, thanks very much for your time. Once again, can't wait for the WA Day round.
And looking forward to reviewing it all on Tuesday with you, Paul. Yeah. Cannot wait.
Oh, it's going to be a beauty. I'll see you then. And thank you to all our viewers and our listeners for tuning in to this week's episode of Around the WAFL. Make sure you get yourself down to a game on the WA Day round. It is going to be a ripper. We look forward to your company on Tuesday for review of Round 8 here on Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. Goodbye.